Let's begin. Level 1. The Summer Associate. Imagine being paid the equivalent of a small nation's GDP to eat free sushi, go to baseball games, and pretend to read a contract. Welcome to your life as a big law summer associate. It is the legal industry's version of an elaborate mating dance, heavily subsidized by extremely wealthy corporate clients. The psychology here is a classic bait and switch known in behavioral economics and cult recruitment circles as love bombing. The law firm showers you with lavish lunches, unlimited alcohol, and firm-branded Patagonia fleeces so thick they act as emotional body armor. They want you to associate the firm with massive dopamine spikes. You're given assignments, but let's be real, your research memo on obscure Delaware corporate law is going straight into the digital shredder. The partners just want to know if you can hold your liquor without insulting a client or accidentally crying in front of the managing partner. Scientifically speaking, your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational decision-making, is being actively suppressed by free shrimp cocktails. When you get handed a corporate credit card to take the other summers out to a steakhouse, your brain releases a massive hit of oxytocin and serotonin. You feel powerful. You are 24 years old, your student loan debt is a distant, fuzzy abstraction, and you are currently ordering the $150 Wagyu beef. The partners nodding approvingly at your half-baked opinions on antitrust regulations aren't actually listening to you. They are evaluating your social camouflage. Can you blend in with the ultra-wealthy? Your ego inflates to the size of a hot air balloon, temporarily overriding any survival instincts that might warn you about the 80-hour work weeks looming in your future. It is a masterclass in behavioral conditioning. They are Pavlov, and you are the dog, except instead of a bell, it's the clinking of martini glasses, and instead of food, it's the illusion of prestige. By the time August rolls around, you're absolutely convinced you've won the career lottery. You accept the return offer. The trap has been set. Basically, your brain is being heavily marinated in truffle oil so you won't notice the butcher's knife being sharpened right behind you. Level 2, the first-year associate. The music has stopped, the lights are on, and the free shrimp is gone. You arrive on day 1 expecting the same glamorous treatment. Instead, you're shoved into a windowless office that smells vaguely of anxiety, sweat, and stale printer toner, handed a laptop heavier than a toddler, and told to review 10,000 pages of emails about a corporate merger involving a cardboard box manufacturer. The psychological whiplash is violent enough to snap your figurative neck. This phase is characterized by a phenomenon known as imposter syndrome on steroids. You realize very quickly that law school taught you absolutely nothing about how to actually practice law. You don't know how to format a brief. You don't know what a closing binder is. You spend 45 minutes sweating over whether to use sincerely or best in an email to a senior associate, convinced that the wrong choice will instantly end your career. Your cortisol levels, the stress hormone that tells your body you're being chased by a bear, are now permanently elevated. Except the bear isn't running through the woods, the bear is an angry partner named Richard who is demanding to know why a comma is italicized on page 47 of a lease agreement. Your life is now governed by the billable hour. This is a psychological torture device designed to slice your existence into 6-minute increments. You start viewing your life exclusively through the lens of 0.1 hours. Going to the bathroom? That's 0.1 unbillable hours. Eating lunch? 0.3 unbillable hours. Crying silently in a bathroom stall while staring at the grout? 0.2 unbillable hours, unless you can somehow relate the tears to the cardboard box merger. Your brain undergoes a fundamental rewiring. You develop phantom phone syndrome, where you feel your pocket buzzing with an urgent email even when your phone is across the room. Your nervous system is perpetually hovering in the fight or flight zone. But since you can't fight a PDF and you can't flee your student loans, you just sit there vibrating with low-grade panic. Basically, you've traded your youth and sanity to become the world's most expensive, highly educated spell checker. Level 3, the mid-level associate. It is year 3. You have survived the culling. But at what cost? Take a look in the mirror. Those dark circles under your eyes are structural now. Welcome to the mid-level years. You are no longer the clueless deer in the headlights, but you aren't the one steering the car either. You are the engine grinding away relentlessly in the dark. The psychology of a mid-level associate is a fascinating study in learned helplessness mixed with aggressive micromanagement. You actually know how to do your job now, which is a horrible curse. Because you know how to do it, you're given all of it. The first years are too incompetent to trust, and the partners are too busy taking clients to golf courses to do the actual drafting. So, it all falls on you. You are the meat in this miserable corporate sandwich. Scientifically speaking, you've entered the adaptation phase of chronic stress. Your body has stopped treating the 80-hour weeks as an emergency and has instead accepted them as the new, horrific baseline. This leads to a bizarre psychological state known as Stockholm Syndrome with a 401k. You start defending the firm. You tell your non-lawyer friends that working over the weekend isn't that bad because they bought you a stale personal pizza at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. Your personal life is a wasteland. You have ghosted your friends so many times that they've stopped inviting you to things. Your romantic relationships consist of apologizing to your significant other while furiously typing on your laptop in bed at 2 a.m. But this is also the phase where the money actually starts to feel real. You start throwing cash at your problems because you have no time to solve them normally. You take Ubers everywhere, you order $40 delivery salads, and you buy expensive espresso machines you never have time to use. This is known as lifestyle creep, and it's the golden handcuffs locking tightly around your wrists. The firm pays you just enough to make you feel like you can't leave, but works you so hard that you have no time to enjoy the money. You look at the starry-eyed summer associates with a mixture of pity and seething resentment. Basically, you are a highly functional zombie in a tailored suit, running purely on caffeine, spite, and the fear of missing a mortgage payment. Level 4, the senior associate. By year 7, your blood is composed of 40% cold brew coffee, 50% cortisol, and 10% pure, unadulterated cynicism. You are now a senior associate, which means you have survived the crucible, but your reward is staring directly into the terrifying abyss of the partnership track. The primary psychological driver at this stage is a massive, crushing case of the sunk cost fallacy. This is a cognitive bias where human beings stubbornly continue a miserable endeavor simply because they've already invested so much time and suffering into it. Your brain whispers, "We can't quit now. We gave up our entire late 20s and missed 3 of our best friends' weddings for this. We must see it through." Biologically, your telomeres, the little protective caps at the end of your DNA strands, are fraying like cheap shoelaces under the constant oxidative stress. You are aging in dog years. To cope with the immense pressure of proving your partnership material to the higher-ups, you instinctively punch down. You have become the very monster you feared as a first year. You now communicate entirely in cryptic, passive-aggressive emails sent at 1:15 a.m. You return drafts to mid-levels bathed in so much red ink they look like a crime scene, often adding helpful margin notes like, "Did you even read the precedent?" or "Please fix." You don't tell them what to fix. That would be too easy. Psychologically, this is an exercise in displacement. You are taking the agonizing anxiety you feel about your own career trajectory and neatly transferring it onto a 25-year-old junior who just wanted to eat a warm dinner. Your social intelligence has morphed into hypervigilance. You spend your days analyzing the tone of a partner's thanks versus the schwacks to determine if your career is over. You are running a constant, exhausting mental algorithm to calculate your odds of making partner, desperately ignoring the mathematical reality that 90% of your starting class is already gone. Basically, you've become a highly compensated bridge troll who demands a toll of flawless PDFs before anyone is allowed to sleep. Level 5, the of Counsel, Purgatory. Imagine playing an incredibly difficult, miserable video game for 9 years, finally reaching the door to the final boss, and instead of a sword, you're handed a slightly nicer chair and told to sit in the hallway forever. Welcome to the of Counsel role. This is the phantom zone of big law. You didn't make partner, but the firm likes you too much or relies on your hyper-specific knowledge of environmental regulatory loopholes too much to actually fire you. So they park you in this ambiguous title. The psychology here is a masterclass in cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance occurs when a person holds two contradictory beliefs at the same time. In this case, I am a high-achieving legal superstar, and I have been formally rejected from the inner circle. The human brain absolutely hates this conflict, so it immediately invents a coping mechanism to resolve the discomfort. You start telling everyone who will listen that you chose this path. You loudly proclaim that you didn't want the liability of being a partner and that you value your work-life balance. But let's be scientifically precise here. You're still working 60-hour weeks, you're just doing it without an equity stake in the firm. Your brain is desperately applying an emotional band-aid over a bruised ego. Physiologically, you might actually see a slight drop in blood pressure during this phase, mostly because the agonizing race for partnership is finally over. The carrot has been removed from the stick, but that relief is often replaced by a dull, aching, existential dread. You are surrounded by aggressive junior partners 10 years younger than you who treat you like a walking, talking encyclopedia. They can consult without giving credit. You exist in a state of professional stasis. You are too expensive to do junior-level work, but you lack the client book to justify a seat at the big table. Basically, your brain is doing your Olympic-level gymnastics to convince you that sitting permanently on the bench was your master plan all along. Level 6, the junior non-equity partner. Congratulations, you finally won the world's most grueling pie-eating contest, and your grand prize is simply more pie. So much pie. You have the title partner. Your parents are thrilled. Your LinkedIn notifications are exploding. But inside the firm, the truth is stark. You are a non-equity partner. This means your name is on the fancy letterhead, but you don't actually own a slice of the firm's profits. You are a glorified, extraordinarily stressed senior employee. The psychological phenomenon ruling your life right now is called the hedonic treadmill. You spent 8 years thinking that reaching the partner promised land would bring you lasting happiness and security. But the moment you cross the finish line, your baseline of expectations reset. The goalpost didn't just move, it was strapped to a rocket and blasted into the stratosphere, because now you have a completely different job. You're no longer just a lawyer, you are expected to be a high-end salesperson. You have to drum up origination credit, bringing in new wealthy clients. The problem? Law school teaches you how to read old books, not how to hustle corporate executives at a golf simulator. Your brain is experiencing severe role strain. You're suddenly forced to adopt the personality of a gregarious car salesman, all while maintaining the dignified aura of a legal scholar. It is neurologically exhausting. You live in absolute terror of the real equity partners. They view you not as a peer, but as a heavily mortgaged asset that needs to produce revenue immediately. If you don't build a book of business in 2 or 3 years, you'll be quietly but firmly asked to leave. It's like being invited to a VIP country club, only to be handed a rake and told to start doing the landscaping. You are making more money than ever before, but your stress has mutated from the tactical fear of messing up a document to the existential terror of financial uselessness. Basically, you paid the ultimate price to join the inner circle, only to realize the walls are closing in and nobody is coming to save you. Level 7. The equity partner. Imagine holding a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory, but instead of a chocolate river, it's a rushing rapid of unlimited liability, and the Oompa Loompas are angry corporate clients demanding lower billing rates. Welcome to the Holy Grail. The equity partner. You have arrived. You're no longer just an employee, you're a partial owner of the firm. You get a draw instead of a salary, your profits are tied directly to the firm's performance, and your college roommates finally think you are truly rich. But let's peel back the curtain on the psychological horror show happening in your brain. This phase is entirely defined by a cognitive bias known as loss aversion. In behavioral economics, loss aversion refers to the fact that the psychological pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. For a decade, your stress was about getting to the top. Now your stress is a frantic, paranoid terror of losing your spot. You are no longer fighting the firm, you are fighting your fellow partners in a ruthless, zero-sum game of client hoarding. Biologically, your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, is working overtime. When a fellow equity partner brings in a massive new client, you don't feel happy for them. You feel an evolutionary threat. You calculate how this shifts the internal power dynamics. You realize that your massive income depends entirely on the associates below you grinding themselves to dust, which forces you to completely suppress whatever empathy you have left. You become obsessed with realization rates, the metric of how much build time is actually paid for by clients. You are technically your own boss, which means you have the freedom to work your 80 hours a week whenever you choose. You buy a massive house in the suburbs that you are never actually in, and a sports car you only drive to the airport. Your brain has officially normalized an absurdly high-stress baseline, meaning if you ever try to sit quietly on a beach for a week, you'll likely experience physical withdrawal symptoms from the lack of cortisol. Basically, you finally reach the top of the mountain, only to realize it is an active volcano and you are expected to drink the lava. Level 8, the Rainmaker. Have you ever met a human being who operates entirely on golf course handshakes, expensive scotch and weaponized charisma? Meet the Rainmaker. If you are lucky or ruthless enough to reach this level, you've transcended the actual practice of law entirely. You no longer draft documents. You no longer read legal precedent. Your only job is to go out into the wild, locate massive corporations with legal problems, and charm them into giving your firm millions of dollars. The psychological profile of a true Rainmaker is absolutely fascinating and slightly terrifying. We are talking about the dark triad of personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and a functional splash of psychopathy. In everyday society, these traits might make you a nightmare to date, but in big law, they make you an apex predator. Your brain is wired to view social interactions not as opportunities for connection, but as complex chess matches to be won. You can read a room instantly, identifying the key decision maker and mirroring their behavior with chilling accuracy. Neurologically, you are addicted to the dopamine hit of the kill. The moment a client signs the retainer agreement. Once the hunt is over, you completely lose interest and immediately dump the actual tedious legal work onto the miserable associates we talked about earlier. You are treated like absolute royalty within the firm. The normal rules do not apply to you. You can be abrasive, demanding, and absent, but the firm's management will fiercely protect you because your book of business keeps the lights on and pays for the mahogany conference tables. There is a powerful psychological phenomenon at play here called the halo effect. Because you bring in $30 million a year, everyone assumes you are also brilliant, wise, and correct in all your opinions. Your terrible ideas are treated as visionary strategies. You float through the office occasionally, radiating a terrifying, aggressive aura before disappearing to a business development dinner at a Michelin star restaurant. Basically, you are a highly functioning sociopath with a country club membership who has figured out how to monetize a complete lack of a gag reflex. Level 9. The managing partner. Imagine being elected the mayor of a very wealthy, highly neurotic psychiatric ward. Welcome to the life of the managing partner. You are the CEO of the law firm. You have won the ultimate popularity contest among a group of people whose primary personality trait is arguing for a living. You might think this means you wield absolute dictatorial power. You would be dead wrong. The psychological torture of this role is rooted in what sociologists call herding behavior, or more accurately, the absolute impossibility of herding apex predators. Your partners are not employees, they are co-owners. They all think they are the smartest person in the room. Your job consists of trying to force 50 egotistical millionaires to agree on a single direction. The mental fatigue is catastrophic. You suffer from chronic decision fatigue, a psychological condition where your brain's ability to make choices rapidly deteriorates after making too many of them. But instead of choosing what to eat for lunch, you are choosing whether to cut associate bonuses or fire a toxic but highly profitable Rainmaker. Your prefrontal cortex is practically melting out of your ears as you deal with mind-numbing administrative disputes. You spend your days mediating screaming matches over who gets the corner office with the better view of the skyline. You are the one who has to smile tightly at the press when the firm gets sued for malpractice, and you are the one who has to convince the banks to extend the firm's line of credit. You thought you were ascending to a throne, but you actually just volunteered to be the emotional sponge for a building full of highly educated narcissists. You are no longer practicing law, you are practicing high-stakes adult daycare. You have to carefully massage egos, deploy strategic flattery, and constantly manipulate your peers into doing things they don't want to do, like paying for new accounting software. You are swimming in a sea of corporate politics so deep and dark that even the Mariana Trench looks like a kiddie pool. Basically, you are the world's most expensive, sleep-deprived babysitter for adults in $3,000 suits. Level 10. The in-house escapee. Imagine clawing your way out of a maximum security prison with nothing but a plastic spoon, only to realize your getaway car is parked permanently in a DMV waiting room. Welcome to the in-house transition. You have finally snapped, taken a massive pay cut, and fled big law to become corporate counsel at a tech startup or a mid-sized bank. You are absolutely convinced you have discovered the holy grail of work-life balance. The psychology at play here is driven by a powerful cognitive bias known as the contrast effect. When you've been subjected to 80-hour work weeks and verbal abuse over font sizes for 5 years, a mere 50-hour week with occasional passive-aggressive Slack messages feels like a luxurious spa vacation. Your nervous system, however, has absolutely no idea how to handle this sudden drop in trauma. You experience a biological phenomenon known as the letdown effect. after years of running on pure adrenaline and chronic cortisol. The sudden removal of that stress actually causes your immune system to crash. You will almost certainly get a terrible cold during your first month in-house because your body finally feels safe enough to completely fall apart. Mentally, you are a rescued shelter dog. When your new boss tells you to log off and enjoy the weekend, your brain instantly perceives this as a trap. You spend your first 6 Saturdays aggressively refreshing your email, waiting for an emergency that never comes, experiencing literal phantom vibrations in your pocket. But the honeymoon phase doesn't last. Soon you realize that in a law firm, lawyers are the revenue generators. In a corporation, you are a cost center. You are the department of no. You are surrounded by hyper-optimistic marketing executives who want to use copyrighted material just for a quick viral TikTok, and your entire job is to crush their dreams to prevent multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Instead of arguing complex legal theories with other brilliant, miserable lawyers, you're now explaining to a 30-year-old tech bro named Braden why he cannot legally fire an employee for making uncool eye contact. Basically, you successfully traded a blood-soaked gladiator arena for a padded cell that happens to feature a ping-pong table and free kombucha. Level 11. The target of the Wellness Committee. Did you know that human beings are the only species on Earth capable of scheduling a mandatory relaxation seminar right in the middle of a screaming panic attack? At some point, the big law partners will look at the skyrocketing turnover rate, the hollow, sunken eyes of their associates, and the frighteningly high health insurance premiums, and they will decide to take immediate action. They will form a wellness committee. The psychology of the Big Law Wellness Initiative is a textbook example of institutional gaslighting. The firm will buy you a premium subscription to a meditation app, hand you a branded stress ball, and host a mandatory Zoom seminar on mindful breathing, all while explicitly demanding that you still bill 2,200 hours a year. It is a psychological trap known in behavioral science as a double bind. A double bind occurs when you receive 2 conflicting messages from an authority figure, and successfully obeying one means completely failing the other. They are telling you to prioritize your sleep and mental health, but their compensation structure rigorously penalizes you if you actually do it. Neurologically, this contradiction induces a state of learned helplessness. Your brain recognizes that the mindfulness seminar is not actually healthcare. It is a liability shield. When you inevitably burn out and collapse into a heap of weeping exhaustion, the firm can point to the mandatory yoga sessions and say, "Well, we tried to give them the tools to cope." You find yourself sitting in a mandatory 50-minute guided meditation, eyes closed, furiously drafting a motion to dismiss on your other monitor, while a soothing voice tells you to visualize a babbling brook. Your prefrontal cortex is practically short-circuiting, trying to reconcile the Zen music with the impending deadline of a hostile corporate takeover. Basically, it is the corporate equivalent of slapping a Hello Kitty Band-Aid on a severed artery and enthusiastically calling it a cure. Level 12. The Artisanal Dropout. Your brain is a highly sophisticated, incredibly resilient supercomputer that, when pushed to its absolute breaking point for a decade, will eventually just command you to go make sourdough bread. Welcome to the final evolution, the complete and total break from the legal profession. You snap. You walk away from a $400,000 salary, hand in your security badge, and decide to open a specialized plant shop, start a microbrewery, or become a life coach for other miserable lawyers. The psychology of this phase is beautiful, terrifying, and profound. It is essentially a fugue state combined with radical self-actualization. Maslow's hierarchy of needs completely inverts inside your skull. You suddenly do not care about prestige, partner tracks, or driving a German luxury sedan. You just want to touch grass. Literally. You're experiencing the extreme limits of neuroplasticity. Your brain is actively, aggressively pruning the neural pathways dedicated to the federal tax code and desperately trying to regrow the pathways that allow you to feel human joy. To your former colleagues still trapped in the firm, you become an urban legend, a cryptid. You are the alumni who escaped the matrix, spoken of in hushed, reverent tones in the break room. Did you hear about Sarah? She just makes bespoke pottery in Vermont now. They look at your Instagram posts of dirty fingernails and mismatched sweaters with a potent mixture of deep confusion and agonizing jealousy. You have absolutely no money anymore. Your 401k has been entirely liquidated to buy an industrial espresso machine for your new cafe. Your parents are profoundly disappointed and your law school professors are confused. But for the first time in 12 years, your resting heart rate is consistently under 100 beats per minute, and you no longer wake up screaming about misplaced commas. Basically, you spent $250,000 on a doctorate in jurisprudence just to definitively prove that your true, undeniable passion is over-needing expensive yeast. Anyway, that's why your brain is currently drafting a resignation letter in its sleep.